this example, let's look at a layout strategy where we can define the width and the locations of our buttons. Again, we'll do a separator, and here we'll do view. And of course, we want our text. Again, we want our styles. Title. And this one is going to be example 4, layout. Okay, there it is. Now, this time, instead of just adding our buttons, let's add an additional view so that we can control where our buttons go. So we'll do another view. And this one, we're going to use a new style that we'll create in a second. So we'll do style. It's to text. A new attribute here. It's to text. And here we're going to do flex direction. This time we're going to keep it on the row. And we will justify our context. And we'll do the space between. What this will do is it will let us, it will pad between the components that we add to this. So inside of our view, we're going to add 2 buttons. One, 2. Button 1 is going to have text. Title. It's going to be left button. And on press. I'm going to again do an alert. And this time we will display the message left button clicked. And inside of our second button, we will name it right button and use the alert right button clicked. Okay, so here's our layout. The specified context padding space between fills the gap between each button. So the left button is pushed to the left and the other button is added to the right. Now if we added a third, it would simply be in the middle. And now when we click these, there's your left button, middle button, and right button. All right, so that is an example of how to use buttons. Any questions on how to use the button component? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the last component for the day, and that is going to be the touchable opacity. So add that one here, touchable opacity. And the touchable opacity component is a wrapper for making views respond properly to touches. These touches can be on press down, and when you press down, the opacity of the wrap view is decreased, dimming it. Opacity is controlled by wrapping the children in an animated view, which is added to the view hierarchy. However, be aware that this can affect the layout. So for this example, let's add the UseStatic or UseState component. Oops, wait, there we go. Oh, there, had to be on a separate line. Yeah. All right, so we're going to use the UseState feature to allow us to actually store a value dynamically so that we can reference the state of a constant value from anywhere within our application. So we've added our import here. The other components we need are going to be our style sheet, text, view, and touchable opacity. Right, clean up previous example. All right. So in this case, we want to define our constant within our application. But here we will define it within the function. So we'll do constant, create a variable called count, and we will use the method set count. And we will use state of 0. Now we're also going to do a constant on press, inline call. We're going to call set count, use previous count, so previous count is going to be our value that we pass into our set count. To use it, we're going to use previous count. Plus 1. Okay, now inside of our return, we need to add a view. Let's add our style, container. All right, inside of our view, let's add another view. And we will create a new style for this one. And inside of this view, we're going to display the text count, and we're going to reference our static count variable. We need some attributes down here, so let's add a count container. Let's add align items. Let's center it. And let's add some padding. And add 10 pixels for padding. Let's also add an attribute over here for button. Add some styling for a button. And our button will be centered, so we will also align items. Center. Color. Let's make it gray. And also add some padding. And add 10 pixels. So we got styles, container, okay, there's our count. We have our text. Now we need our button. So now, instead of button, we're going to use our touchable opacity. Now this guy has a wrapper for, instead of title to display text, you add text. And we'll add our text, press here. Now, for our touchable opacity, let's add our style. So add a button style. And let's also do our on press and set it equal to our on press constant. Okay, so we have our button now. And if we press this guy, as you can see, the button kind of fades out between click and our count goes up. And that's how you use touchable opacity. Any questions on how to use this guy?
Nope.
All right. So before I wrap up, are there any questions at all of any of the components we have covered today? I don't think we
Yeah, one question. Is this mainly, I mean, in order to be good in this, you have to be very good at CSS and HTML?
Not so much HTML. Remember, these are components,
Okay.
so it's XML tag driven. Okay. And the styling is CSS-like, so you just have to look at the libraries that are out there. If you go to React Native, if we go out to React Native, if you go to the docs, like components, for instance, you click button, here are all the attributes and things that you can apply to buttons.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there are other properties that you can look up, like image style properties, layout properties. I mean, there are tons of these. So really, if you're using something like code or you're using the Expo, the moment you get in here and you start typing, or you can do control space, and then here are all the different attributes that you can apply.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool.
So they really simplify it, because if you do control space inside of Visual Code, if you have the plugin installed, there's all your styling like attributes that you can add.
Okay.
Just kind of look for the little blue boxes. Anything below the blue boxes, now you're getting into actual, like this here. So these are components styling, these are text stylings, these are functional stylings. So it's kind of cool how Visual Code works. Expo isn't quite as clean like this, but again, you can do like the control space in Expo, and it will give you a list of components.
Gotcha. Okay. And Michael, you're self-taught on this here, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
This is React Native is very similar to an older tool I used to use called Titanium Alloy, and it was very tag driven like this. And it really looks like React Native borrowed a lot from their framework, because I was able to take one of our older applications that me and Rob worked on and almost directly drop it in with a few tweaks to make it work in React Native.
Okay.
All right, to quickly review, today we talked about the final components of React Native. We looked at using the image component to add local image resources as well as network images into our application. When importing images or using the image component, you need to remember that unless your image is local, you have to set the styling components for setting the size of your image. Image background is a good tag to use when doing with splash pages, when you want to just put your image to be the full size of the screen. And finally, we looked at using the button tag and the touchable opacity tags to handle wrapping of our buttons to where we can actually interact and click to do some type of action on our pages. I'd like to thank you for your time. If you would like to discuss any of these topics further, you can send us questions, comments, and suggestions through any of these methods. You can reach us at email at info@developer.com. You can go to our developer.com site and go to the Contact Us page. You can see these videos on YouTube and Vimeo. We're on Vimeo at vimeo.com/developer, and YouTube, we're at www.UCZOUFN_LHCVVTY P2KSITH_G. Our goal is making every developer better. Have a great day.